Good day to all the viewers, all the attendees. I welcome you to this session on safety at work. Safety not only for yourself, but IHM Meerut since the last 3 years. But I have been associated with IHM Meerut since 1998. That makes it a 22-year-old long association. I am an author of 2 books, Simply Cooking Theory and Principles and Simply Cooking Practical. My first book, Simply Cooking Theory and Principles, has gone into the second edition also, so I can tell you that I am a fairly successful author and a professional, if I may say so myself. These are testing times. These are times when the good Lord wants us to restrain ourselves, to not go out of our homes, to use time with our family, with our people, and also devote time for our own self-development. Now, I hope that all viewers are devoting their time towards developing themselves by attending seminars, meetings, sessions such as this, and of course reading books. This is going to go away. You see, nothing is permanent, nothing lasts. Everything is there for a certain amount of time, then it goes away and then something else comes in. So this is going to go away. What we need to do is to remain prepared for when it goes away, and then as soon as it goes away, we should spring into action. We should not say, oh my God, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. And we should be ready for this one favorite interview question: what did you do during the 4 months that you were at home? Now, please be prepared to answer this question. What did you do during the 4 months that there was a lockdown and you stayed at home? With that thought, let us please begin today's session, Safety at Work. Here goes. Good day to all the viewers, all the attendees. I welcome you to this session on safety at work. Safety not only for yourself, but also for all the people who eat the food cooked in your kitchen. I am Chef Professor Anand Mittal, Principal of IHM Meerut since the last 3 years, but I have been associated with IHM Meerut since 1998. That makes it a 22-year-old long association. I am an author of 2 books, Simply Cooking Theory and Principles and Simply Cooking Practical. My first book, Simply Cooking Theory and Principles, has gone into the second edition also, so I can tell you that I am a fairly successful author and a professional, if I may say so myself. These are testing times. These are times when the good Lord wants us to restrain ourselves, to not go out of our homes, to use time with our family, with our people, and also devote time for our own self-development. Now, I hope that all viewers are devoting their time towards developing themselves by attending seminars, meetings, sessions such as this, and of course reading books. This is going to go away. You see, nothing is permanent, nothing lasts. Everything is there for a certain amount of time, then it goes away, and then something else comes in. So this is going to go away. What we need to do is to remain prepared for when it goes away, and then as soon as it goes away, we should spring into action. We should not say, oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared. And we should be ready for this one favorite interview question: what did you do during the 4 months that you were at home? Now please be prepared to answer this question. What did you do during the 4 months that there was a lockdown and you stayed at home? With that thought, let us please begin today's session: safety at work. Here goes. Safety at Work by Chef Anand Mittal. The objective of this session is threefold. Three objectives. The first one is to tell you about the importance of safety at the workplace, role of the management regarding safety of employees, food hygiene, and food contamination. Let us move on with the first aim: importance of safety. Before we go any further, I must share an incident. In fact, there are thousands of incidences. In my time, the machines were not, I'm talking about 1986 when I started working in the kitchen, hotel kitchen. The machines were not so safe. And I've seen my share of accident where people lost their hands, where people cut off their fingers, and things like that happened quite a bit in my time. It is a very sad experience. It is a very sad thing for somebody to get hurt. So that is the reason why I chose this topic today. Kitchen is a high risk area in many ways. Safety is required here for personnel, food, and equipment. Not just for people, for the food also we need safety, and we need to be safety oriented for the equipment also. Safety is important because it creates a positive image to guests, functioning becomes proper, and operation becomes easy. It increases staff morale substantially. You see, whenever there is an accident, the morale of the entire team goes down. And of course, safety helps legal costs and other unnecessary, irritating expenses. Accidents in the kitchen may happen in any of the following 7 ways: cuts, burns or fires, falls, electrical issues, chemical poisoning, violence, or other safety issues such as uniform, hair, jewelry, shoes, hoods, etc. Let's talk about cuts. Knife safety may be achieved by using sharp knives. Wash separately. Do not wash knives with the other utensils. Using a chopping board as cutting surface. Keeping edge of the knife away from the body. Storing knives visibly, appropriately. Never throwing or catching knives. Not placing the edge upwards, and using mesh gloves and grease-free handles. There was a time when I was a kitchen trainee, and there was a time when I felt that I had mastered the knife. I would do wonders. I would not even look where I was cutting, and my hand would cut like a machine, very fast, without looking. And I felt that I've become a master of the knife. And that is where I cut my finger. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but I cut my finger. I was playing with the knife. I was overconfident. I was playing with the knife and I cut myself. So I was not cutting anything. I was just gloating. I was feeling so confident that I've become a master of the knife. And I cut myself and it opened up. My knife was as sharp as the razor. You see, there is no sense in using a knife unless it is absolutely sharp. The lesson I learned that day and the lesson that I'm sharing with you today is that please respect, venerate the knife. Respect the knife. Do not never ever play with it. Respect the way we respect an idol, a god. We don't touch the god. We don't. So the edge of the knife, the sharp portion of the knife is God, I would say. We don't touch it. We don't play with it. We don't make fun of it. And we don't take it lightly. We literally venerate the edge of the knife. And the knife should be sharp. So if you buy a knife, you should also buy a sharpening stone along with it. And you must spend time sharpening your knife before you begin work every day. Okay, moving on. Broken glass should be wrapped and then carefully discarded in a dedicated waste bin. Broken glass should not be mixed with other waste. Take care of the equipment while using it. Burns. Ovens, grills, range tops, deep fat fryers, and microwave ovens pose burn hazards. Avoid splashing water in hot oil. Cool equipment before cleaning it. Boiling liquids, steam, hot spills, and steamers should be handled carefully. Heat of oil should be thermostat controlled. Clean grease traps and grill surfaces frequently. Use hand mitts and pot holders. Do not burn your hands, do not burn your fingers. It is foolish to be caught in an accident and tragic. Fall. A fall in the kitchen may be the result of greasy or slippery floor. Spills should be mopped immediately and guardrails provided. Even when you are walking upstairs or coming downstairs, please use the guardrail. Do not slip or fall. Running in the kitchen should be avoided. No running at all. Kitchen is a very serious place. No time for games and for running around. There should be no obstruction in pathways. The pathways should be clear. There should be adequate lighting in the kitchen. Everything should be adequately visible. Poor hygiene in the kitchen should be avoided. Kitchen should be neat and clean all the time, especially now so with the COVID-19 menace, which has taught us that hygiene is more important than anything else in the world. The whole world has come to a halt because of our poor hygienic practices. Carrying heavy loads should be avoided. We should use trolleys. We should divide our load. We should not carry heavy loads because they make us very unstable. Storing heavy items on the top shelves should be avoided. The heaviest of the items should be placed here and only the light items should be. No bare wires should be allowed. Wires should be properly trained personnel should be allowed to operate electrical equipment. Any sparking or loose connections should be immediately reported and repaired. Wet hands, duster or shoes should not be used while operating electrical equipment. Chemical hazards. Chemicals used in the kitchen are cleaning agents, sanitizers, acids, caustics, etc. In order to save yourself from these chemicals, provide protective equipment to all your chefs, all the kitchen staff. Train the staff well. Training will take you a long, long way. Train your staff well. Inventory and store chemicals carefully. You should know how many chemicals you have and you must store them carefully. Provide eye wash stations and safety showers in susceptible areas. Make material safety data available for all chemicals used in the kitchen. This is important. Violence. Like I said, kitchen is not the place for playing games or for taking things lightly. There should be no violence at the workplace. However, these are some things that you must do. Install cameras and mirrors to deter robbers. Supervise troublemaking guests, uninvited guests, and employees closely. Restrict entry and movement within the kitchen to only authorized personnel. Train employees, supervisors, and managers to recognize warning signs of potential workplace violence. Reinforce security in the kitchen. You see, people tend to behave when they know they are being watched. So the first point about installing cameras, that will do the trick, you know. But nevertheless, we must reinforce security in the kitchen every time. Other hazards, uniform. Wear properly fitting chef's uniform with complete protective gear. Hair should be short or tied and covered with a net properly. Jewelry, anything more than a wedding ring is not permitted to be worn. Your hands should be bare. Anything other than the wedding ring is not allowed to be worn in the hands. Shoes, leather shoes with rubber soles are preferred in the absence of kitchen clogs. Laces should be carefully tied always. And about hoods, no loose clothing, otherwise it will get caught in a machine and it should not be worn. Causes of accidents. Why do accidents happen? Excessive haste, jaldibaji. Make haste. Oh, I'm sorry, hurry, but do not make haste. जल्दी जल्दी काम करो पर जल्दीबाजी मत करो. Excessive haste should be avoided. Carelessness or negligence should be avoided. Unsafe work procedures, safety first, always. Avoiding safety gear, improper lighting, use of heat and hot equipment, ignorance, lack of knowledge, use of machinery, and poor hygiene in the kitchen. These are the causes of accidents that I know. Best management practices: hire employees who are wary of safety, who know the importance and how safety has to be done. Only those kind of employees should be hired. They should be adequately educated or licensed. Review trends of employee compensation losses in the past years and make amends. Get all employees involved in the safety effort. Know the laws that affect safety. Hazard identification and control. And last but not the least, get a safety related green sheet from the municipal authorities. Managing human hazards. Manage employees' safe behavior by observing the employees, provide immediate training or feedback. If you see anything is not safe, report. Substance abuse should not be there. Literacy, educated staff, language or personnel conflicts should be dealt with the help of outside agencies. Encourage employees to report any unsafe actions and celebrate good safety performance. So when somebody does a good job at safety, celebrate it. We come to an end to the part on safety. In the event of an hazard, have ready access to all of these 6 emergency numbers, medical facilities, first aid, insurance notification, communication, and transport facility. Focus on finding and removing the cause of the hazard. The next part of our presentation is hygiene. What is food hygiene? Food hygiene can be defined in 3 ways. Number 1, destruction of harmful bacteria from food through cooking, preservatives, etc. Number 2, prevention of cross-contamination of food by the use of dirty hands, insects, foreign objects, etc. And finally, we can define hygiene as protecting food from contamination by safekeeping, covering, chilling, etc. So you either destroy the harmful bacteria, or you prevent cross-contamination, or you protect the food from contamination. And all 3 are the ways that we keep hygiene in food. Loose clothing, personal hygiene. The first step towards creating safe and hygienic food is for the chef to be clean, well groomed, and attired in his complete fitting uniform. Hand wash, wet hands with clean warm water, running water. Apply soap and rub your palms together away from the water. Rub your fingers and thumbs and the webs. Brush nails with a nail brush. Brush nails with a nail brush. Rub the back of each hand. Rinse with clean running water. After you have rinsed, dip your hands in disinfectant solution and shake in the sink. Do not wipe your hands or do not touch any surface with your hands after you have washed them. I'm going to show you a video on how to wash hands. Please watch.
Please start.
Rinse, liquid soap, make a lot of lather, rub your hands, both edges, backwards, forwards, thumbs, fingertips, both fingertips, palm of the hand and fingernails and top of the fingertips, heel of the hand, round, and then wash. Hygienic kitchen. Clean floors and walls regularly to remove food scraps and other debris, as this can attract pests. Don't allow any pets in the kitchen. Wash hands immediately after touching the rubbish bin or use the foot pedal. All cleaning chemicals should be stored away from the food preparation areas. Any pests should be reported immediately. The floor should be sloped and drains must be such that they may easily be washed. The floor should be easily washed. Drain of the floor should be such that the water goes into the drain. Never touch food surfaces unnecessarily. No smoking, eating, or drinking is allowed in the kitchen. Any activity which forces you to touch your lips is not allowed in the kitchen. Smoking, touching your lips, eating, touching your lips, or drinking, touching your lips, not allowed in the kitchen. Foods should never be placed on the floor. Keep foods covered. Use separate ladles for separate foods. Ensure that all foods, etc., that enter the kitchen come from hygienic stores. Don't allow direct sunlight in your kitchen. Keep the kitchen ventilated and temperature controlled. Now a word about bacteria. Bacteria are hitchhikers. Bacteria cannot travel on their own. They have to be transported from one place to the other, and mostly by us. Otherwise, bacteria cannot travel. They will remain where they are. Equipment hygiene. Clean and disinfect equipment immediately after each use. Do not wait for the shift to end before you clean. The golden rule in the kitchen is clean as you go. And there's one more golden rule in the kitchen: whenever in doubt, throw. Whenever you have a little doubt about whatever food ingredient, do not risk, do not do anything with it, just simply throw it away. Disinfect brushes, cloths, and sponges regularly. Wash dishcloths at the hottest washing machine temperature or use disposable ones. Wipe all food preparation areas with food-safe disinfectant before and after every use. Food contact surfaces such as dishes or pots can be hygienically cleaned by washing with antibacterial detergent and hot water and by thoroughly rinsing with clean water. Equipment hygiene, large equipment. Fixed or large food contact surfaces that cannot be rinsed thoroughly, such as kitchen worktops or kitchen slabs, may be cleaned with detergent and disinfected with an antibacterial product. This will help to reduce the risk of cross-contamination from one of the biggest hygiene hotspots in the kitchen. Chopping board. Use separately colored coded chopping boards for meat, fish, poultry, fruits, and vegetables. Scrub chopping boards, wash with detergent, disinfect with air, dry after every use. Change or shave wooden chopping boards regularly as they can harbor harmful germs. Peels, fish or fowl, etc. should go to the garbage bin directly. It should not be placed on chopping boards. Always wash and dry your hands after handling raw food, especially fish. How do we keep the refrigerator clean? Separate refrigerators and freezers are used for different food groups. What are the different food groups? There are cereals and pulses and the dry stuffs. Then there are dairy products. Then there are meat products. Then there are fish and poultry. So all of these food groups should be dealt with separately. Separate freezers and refrigerators for all. Monitor temperatures of each storage point. Maintain checks and logs. Walk-ins should be closed tight and never be left open for any length of time. Air should freely circulate around food within the refrigerator by using slatted shelves. Slatted shelves should be used so that air can rotate, can circulate freely around the food in the refrigerator. Store foods covered in original packing as long as it is clean. If the original packing is not clean, then you can change the packing. But please store the foods covered in the refrigerator. Racks, walls, and floors of the refrigerator should be clean, absolutely clean. Transportation. Food suppliers. Look for suppliers who use properly refrigerated delivery truck, train their employees in sanitation, use protective, leak-proof, sturdy packaging, have flexible delivery schedules, arrive during busy periods, cooperate with your employees in inspecting food when it is delivered, allow you to inspect their delivery trucks and production facilities. Receiving. This topic of purchasing, receiving, and storing had been dealt with by me yesterday, but it is so important that I've included just one slide today also. Inspect supplies carefully with their standard purchase specifications. Use thermometers. Check delivery trucks for signs of contamination such as dirt, melted ice, pests, etc. Sample all bulk items and individual packages within cases. Log in acceptable goods only. Consult the chef for any doubts. Remove nails, staples, fasteners, wooden corrugated boxes and crates, gunny bags. Wash the foods and place in proper containers. Quickly send the items to the store or the kitchen. Do not leave the items unattended and at the incorrect temperature in the receiving bay or wherever else. Following are the 10 rules for safe food handling. Personal hygiene of all employees, important. Be careful about potentially hazardous food items on the menu. Food and supplies should be obtained from reputed suppliers only. We must observe strict time temperature controls. Prevent cross-contamination in storing and handling food. Cook foods just before serving. Allow me a moment. I would like to explain to you the difference between contamination and cross-contamination. Contamination is deterioration of the food because of the bacteria present in it. That is contamination. And contamination, food is said to be contaminated when the consumer gets sick upon eating it. Then we say he is sick because of consuming contaminated food. So contaminated food is food which is spoiled because of the action of the bacteria in it. That is contamination. Now what is cross-contamination? Cross-contamination is when a safe food gets contaminated because of the handler or because of the unsafe handling procedures. So for example, a safe food and then I touch it with my hand and my hand is infected or my hand is not clean and the food gets cross-contaminated. Or there's a pot of food, safe food, but I sneeze on it. This is cross-contamination. Or there is food and an insect or a reptile perhaps falls in it. Then it becomes cross-contaminated. So we should protect the food not only from contamination but also from cross-contamination. We should supervise the food carefully after cooking it. We should not rest when the food is cooked that our job is done. We must make sure that it is preserved, it is dealt with carefully right up to the time it reaches the guest. 6 rules have been done. The 7th rule, any food that has been served to the guest must not be reused but thrown away. 8th, keep foods covered. Always keep foods covered. 9th, preparation areas should be distinct from cooking areas. All cutting, chopping, everything else should be done in another area, and all cooking should be done in another area. And last but not the least, all the chefs should be highly hygiene educated, formally hygiene educated. This is the last slide in the second part of our presentation today, which is about safety, and the title of this slide is Hygiene and Food Poisoning. Hygiene not only means hygiene of ourselves, it also means hygiene of the workplace and the food. 3 parts: hygiene, personal hygiene, workplace hygiene, and food hygiene. Food poisoning. What is food poisoning? Now this is what we are going to be dealing with in the next session, but I thought I should include it here. What is food poisoning? Food poisoning is an illness which is caused by consumption of contaminated food. There are many contaminants, but the most notorious contaminant of food is bacteria. There are different types of microorganisms and there are different things which can contaminate food, but the most notorious, the most common poisoner of food is bacteria. And out of the thousands of bacteria, these are the two bacteria which are the most notorious of all. So we will focus our attention on Salmonella and E. coli only. E. coli, botulism. Food hazards. Any substance Food hazards. Any substance that can cause illness or injury is called a hazard. There are three types of food hazards: biological, chemical, and physical. I would like to read from my book here because I could not include all that information in the slideshow, but it is very important for you to know about it. So I am going to be reading a little portion of my book. Pathogens. I hope I was sufficiently clear in my voice and you could understand what I was saying. So, pathogens. Microbiology is the study of tiny, usually single-celled organisms that can only be seen under a microscope. The four types that can contaminate food are bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi. Direct contamination. Several microorganisms, primarily bacteria, parasites, viruses, and fungi, can cause biological-based foodborne illness. Bacteria are single-celled and they are the leading cause of foodborne illness. Beneficial bacteria called putrefactive are not a concern. The dangerous ones are called pathogenic. Pathogenic. Putrefactive are the good ones and pathogenic are the bad bacteria, dangerous bacteria. Types of bacteria. Bacteria are everywhere in the ground, air, in our food, on our skin, and inside our bodies. They're everywhere. The classification of bacteria are, there are four classes of bacteria: harmless bacteria, beneficial bacteria, undesirable bacteria, and disease-causing bacteria or pathogens. So the last two are something that we have to be careful about, the undesirable and the disease-causing bacteria. However, we should cultivate, we should encourage the harmless bacteria and the beneficial bacteria. Pathogenic bacteria can cause illness in humans in three ways: by intoxication, infection, or toxin-mediated infection. An example of intoxication is botulism. Salmonella is an example of infection. Clostridium perfringens is an example of toxin-mediated infection. Toxin-mediated infection. Bacterial growth. Bacteria grow by a process called binary fission. So there's one bacteria and then it grows long and long and long and then it breaks and becomes two. Binary fission. A single bacterium can grow to 1,000,000 in less than 6 hours. One bacteria can become 1,000,000 in 6 hours. Every 20 minutes, every 15 minutes, one becomes two. Conditions for growth. What are the conditions for growth of bacteria? Food, moisture, temperature, acidity or alkalinity, oxygen, and time. You prevent any of these 6 from the bacteria and the bacteria will die. So you prevent food, you can't prevent food, so food is a fixed. You prevent moisture, you dry out the food will become preserved. Temperature, you put the food in a deep freezer and it is preserved. Or you boil the food and the food is preserved. So temperature. Acidity or alkalinity, the more alkaline the food is, the more the food is with pH above 7, the more it is susceptible to spoilage. And the more acidic it is when pH is below 7, then it is slightly safer. Then oxygen. Oxygen is a culprit. You cannot prevent oxygen. Oxygen is all around us, but you can take away all empty spaces from the food and pack them tightly or fill them with inert gases such as nitrogen and pack the food hermetically, airtight. So prevent oxygen from the food and the food is safe. And last but not the least is time. So you don't give time for the bacteria to grow and multiply. You cook at the absolute last minute. And when you cook food and it is hot, you must immediately have it served. And you must not cook 1 day before and 2 days before or 1 hour before or 2 hours before and give time to the bacteria to grow and multiply. Time is of essence. The danger zone. The danger zone is 41 degrees Fahrenheit to 135 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, this is the temperature range in which bacteria grow rapidly if the food is held within these temperatures. Simply keep hot food hot and cold food cold at all times. Keep frozen foods frozen until use. I'm sorry, but these centigrade temperatures are incorrect. Please do not note them. The danger zone is between 8 degrees centigrade and 63 degrees centigrade. 8 to 63. The food should never be kept between 8 degrees centigrade and 63 degrees centigrade. It should either be below 8 degrees centigrade or it should be above 63 degrees centigrade in order to keep it safe. That is the danger zone. And in Fahrenheit is correct, 41 degrees Fahrenheit and 135 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the danger zone. Never keep foods in the danger zone. Always out of the danger zone. And last but not the least, thaw food properly. How do we thaw food? Food is thawed by keeping it in the refrigerator. Never in the under a running water or never at room temperature. Food should be thawed in the refrigerator. Whenever we need frozen food, we should remove it from the deep freezer and keep it in the fridge for as many as 24 hours till it becomes soft all over, and then we must use it. The high protein foods are most suitable. Eggs, fish, and other high milk, high protein foods are more susceptible. Water activity levels. If a food has a water activity level of 0.85% or more, then it is considered to be potentially hazardous. More the water, the more susceptible it is to spoilage. The pH scale is 0 to 14. Bacteria prosper in neutral or basic environments 7 or more than 7. In acidic environments, pH less than 7, their activity gets reduced, as explained earlier. Potentially hazardous foods, two general categories: food from animals or foods containing animal products, any food derived from the plants which have been cooked, partially cooked, or heat treated. Three specific items: raw seed sprouts, sliced melons, and garlic and oil mixtures. As bacteria do not have any feet, like I said earlier, they have to move from place to place by other means. Hitchhiking, that cartoon that you saw, they have to move from place to place by other means. And what are the other means? Hands, coughs and sneezes, other foods, equipment and utensils, air, water, and insects and rodents. Protection against bacteria: keep bacteria from spreading, stop bacteria from growing, and kill bacteria. In the beginning, I gave you three definitions. These are the three definitions. These are the 3 points which are related to those three definitions. The first one is keep bacteria from spreading, stop them from growing, and kill them. I have a good mind of taking up HACCP in detail very soon. HACCP is Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point. Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point. This is a wonderful thing for keeping safety in the kitchen. All kitchens in the world are HACCP licensed. All good kitchens of the world, I would say. What is HACCP? HACCP is, as you can see on the left, Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point. What is HACCP? HACCP is a system which identifies, evaluates, and controls hazards which are significant for food safety. The objective of HACCP system is to help organizations focus on the hazards affecting food safety and systematic identification, detailed analysis of the entire journey of the food, right from the supplier to receiving, storing, issuing, preparing, dish and equipment hygiene, cooking and serving to the guest, and controlling all the risks. So that is all that I'm going to be talking about HACCP today, but I'm going to cover this in detail in one of my later sessions. Principles of HACCP are threefold: to analyze food hazards, biological, chemical, or physical; identifying critical control points, raw materials, storage, processing, distribution, and consumption; and to determine critical control limits and preventive measures, for example, minimum cooking temperatures, etc. Establish and monitor the control points, establish corrective actions, record keeping, and verifications. System audit. Okay, enough of HACCP. Now let us talk about a hazard. This is the last part of today's presentation. What is a hazard? A hazard is a physical, chemical, or biological agent in or condition of food with the adverse health effect. Microbiological hazards in food: bacteria, yeasts, protozoa, molds, and viruses. Physical hazards in food: Chemical hazards in food. Visible biological hazards. Major risk factors of HACCP are improper holding temperature, preparing food ahead of planned schedule, poor personal hygiene, and inadequate cooking. Inadequate cleaning and disinfecting of the equipment, cross-contamination, use of leftover foods, and contaminated raw material. Conditions supporting bacterial growth. Just to make you remember, we have created a word called Fat Tom. So if you can remember Fat Tom, then you can remember all the conditions supporting bacterial growth. Fat Tom, where F stands for food, A stands for acidity, pH, T stands for time, the next T stands for temperature, O stands for oxygen, and M stands for moisture. So these are the 6 things that you must understand. These are the conditions supporting bacterial growth, and you can remember them easily if you can remember the word Fat Tom. I would like to now read a little bit to you about food preservation. This is also a topic which is very close to my heart, but I could not include it in this slideshow because then the slideshow would become excessively long. So I'm going to be quickly reading from my book, Simply Cooking Theory and Principles, just a little bit about food processing and food preservation. Sources of Salmonella. I hope I was audible and legible. I hope you heard me. आपने सुना भी और समझे भी preservation के बारे में. Now moving on, sources of Salmonella. Egg yolks or infected chickens, meat from infected animal, fish and shrimp, dairy products from milk of infected animals, feces or pets, reptiles, turtles, lizards. These are the sources of Salmonella. Salmonella bacteria. What are the symptoms of Salmonella poisoning? Most types of food poisoning cause some combination of abdominal cramps, पेट में दर्द, nausea, wanting to vomit, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach problem, and fever. Most food poisoning have some combination of all of these 5. And food poisoning, mind you, does not happen immediately. It happens after 3, 4, or 6 hours of eating contaminated food. It does not happen immediately. The food goes in and then the bacteria grow, and then after 4 or 5 hours they show their effects. And the symptoms will be any of these 5. The next bacteria, I said there are 2 bacteria that you should be very careful about. One was Clostridium and the other is Botulinum. Salmonella and Botulinum. There are several others also, but let's not talk about them. Time is short. Canned foods, especially those that are low in acid like fish and vegetables. Botulinum is an anaerobic bacteria. So it grows in places where there is no oxygen. And canned foods is a beautiful, perfect place for botulinum to grow and multiply because there is no oxygen in the can. And garlic preserved in oil is again very notorious for botulinum poisoning. Vacuum packed or tightly wrapped foods also tend to get poisoned by botulinum, and preserved or uncured meats. Preserved or uncured meats are the sources of botulinum. Curing is preserving meat with the help of salt or with the help of salt water called brine. To be double sure, we must add 3% of sodium nitrite to common salt when we are preserving meats with the help of salt. Symptoms of botulinum: muscle pain, weakness, fatigue, causes inflammation in the intestines, and dehydration. And botulinum is the only bacteria, to the best of my knowledge, which can cause death. Normally, food poisoning does not cause death, but botulinum poisoning is the most dangerous poisoning, and it can even lead to death if it is not treated properly. We have come to a close of today's presentation. This is the last slide. Food poisoning, how do we prevent it? We prevent it by thoroughly cooking food and practicing good hygiene. Meat thermometer ensures meats are cooked to the right internal temperature. Uncooked food in the refrigerator or freezer at the proper temperature. No cross-contamination. Never defrost food at room temperature. If food smells or looks bad, throw it away. Clean surfaces whenever they contact new raw meats. Don't let cooked food contact any surfaces that may have been contaminated by raw food. Wash fruits and vegetables before eating. In the wake of the current pandemic, all these points become more relevant. I wish that your kitchens are very hygienic whenever this menace goes away and whenever our kitchens start operations. I know of a lot of hoteliers who are at home and they are suffering because of this pandemic, because all hotel businesses have come to almost a grinding standstill. But slowly things are happening. Today when I went out to the market, I saw quite a few food places were open or opening, and I saw some sweet shops had opened and stuff. So things are coming back to normal, but the new normal is not what the old normal was. So we must be extra hygienic, cautious, and careful in the future, and not give anybody any chance to blame us for our carelessness. Please remember, we are hotel management graduates, and the future of the kitchens of the world is on our shoulders. So we should not leave any stone unturned in practicing good hygiene in our kitchens, regardless of everything else. Thank you very much for being with us. May God bless you. Be safe. And just before leaving, prevention of food poisoning. Prevent botulism by throwing away dented and damaged food containers. Heating food for 30 minutes at 176 degrees Fahrenheit, 80 degrees centigrade will destroy toxins. Food handlers to wash hands frequently, especially after using bathrooms. Do not wipe your nose, then handle food, because bacteria live in the mucus and other body secretions.